Hey crafty peeps, welcome back. This is Georgiana with Expressions Craft Studio, and today we're going to make some cards for week 12 of our Project Christmas Cheer 2023. And I found this really cute card on Pinterest, and I decided to try and recreate this, and I did this with my Cricut, and I will share that file with anyone who's interested. But this is what we're going to do. Now, because I'm making Christmas cards, I am changing the message here. And I wanted to give a shout out to Polka Dots and Paper, which is the person who posted this. If you go to their website, or you click the link, it just brings you to this, and it doesn't give you any options. But you can kind of read her name down there. So if you go and type into Google, let's see here. It will take you to her different profiles. So she's a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. She's on Facebook and Twitter and several other options. So you can visit her and check out anything else that she's done that you might be interested. But here's her Stampin' Up! Page. And so thank you, Linda. We're going to try to recreate this card today. And let's go to Design Space. And actually, I already have created the card. Oops, wrong place. Let's do it here. And what I've done is I've created these sentiments. There's one for the front fold, which is hidden under here. You can't see it, but it will cut out. And then there's one for inside the card. So since I've already created this, I've already actually created a couple of cards. Kind of did them the hard way because I was using 8.5 by 11 paper, and today I'm going to be using 12 by 12 paper so I can actually get 2 cards out of it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now I think I probably need to turn on my Cricut. Alright, so this is our first 12 by 12 piece, and we've got 1 and 2 cards out of that. And I think you can maybe, it's a textured paper, so maybe not, just maybe see the score line right down through there. So I am going to need to replace my tape here eventually. It's starting to lose it's sticky. Or I could just get a new mat, but as long as this is working, I will continue to do this. Now, I would typically go ahead and just cut out the next one on the green paper, but rather than make you sit through that, or green cardstock, I will just go ahead and cut out one of the sentiment sheets. So we're going to line this up and tape it down. Now these I printed on a pretty pearlescent cardstock. The ones I did previously was just a basic white cardstock, and honestly they're not as pretty, I don't think. I think that the pearl really adds a lot to the sentiment, but that's just me. Especially since these are Christmas sentiments. And you could even print this out on a colored paper, a light colored paper if you want. And if you're using your Cricut, you could even have your Cricut write them out. But I just like the way they look when they're printed. To me, it's just a cleaner look than I get with stamping or with the Cricut. Alright, so let's go back to our Design Space. And we'll go up to here, and I think I'm going to tell it heavy cardstock because this is a little thicker and I want to make sure it cuts out well. And we'll load our mat. Here we go. All right. So I've loaded the mat to print or to cut out the sentiments, and I've selected 100 or heavy cardstock, and I'm going to hit the blinking arrow or the go button. And Cricut is going through and checking the registration box so that it gets the alignment correct. Okay, let me check that mat from my Cricut. And let's go back to our overhead camera. Alright, so then you can see, even though you couldn't see the shape in Design Space, it's because it's all flattened and attached, and I did it in white so it wouldn't print out a color. It is there. So let's get these off the mat. Now we do have one more set to cut out, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to instead try to find a complementary piece of paper to the red to cut that out as the backing or the layering piece in between the two sentiments. I think this will work. Yeah, we got a little bit of tape on that piece. It just comes right off. Okay. Let's see. Pull that up again. That's about 3.5 by 9.5. So I think this is plenty big enough. Oh yeah. So we'll take this down. Now a gold would look really nice too, but that would mean I'd have to get up and go find a gold piece. So we'll save that for another day. Just tape this down really well so I don't want it moving around. Alright, so this one's actually a medium cardstock. And we'll load our mat. And we'll press go as soon as it's ready. There we go. I've gotten a stack of paper out here to look for green, and then I found that scrap, so I'm going to put this back. Alright, unload our mat, and we'll switch back to work surface. So here you can see we have our two layering pieces. That little scrap worked out nicely. And I'm going to set this aside. We'll cut it. I'll cut it later. You don't need to see that. So, let's see here. I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do this is because my sound is an issue. Yep, I just knocked a bunch of stuff off onto the floor. I'm going to leave the laptop right there and hopefully I don't knock it off. Alright, so I'm going to fold my card bases, and it is a little hard to see on this textured cardstock. So I'm just going to line up my corners, or try to. Just easier said than done sometimes. Just bring it out. Get the crease. Right. Actually, I went the wrong way with that. Well, actually, you know what? I didn't. That's the way I want it to go, right there. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing with this. We're just going to kind of fold it back and line it up. And hopefully it'll fold nicely on that crease. And it did. So there's one. Let's do it with this one as well. Give it a nice burnish. We'll do our Z fold here. Give that a nice burnish. Alright, so now we're going to lay down our pieces. That one's got a little something on it. So one of the things that I don't like about so one of the things I don't like about cutting tools, whether it be sometimes die cuts, although less likely on those just because the way they work, but any kind of cutting machine or a cutter, it leaves this little lip, and I don't think you're going to be able to see it. Well, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. This little lip, and I don't like that little lip. So I go through, and it's a little time consuming, but I just kind of press it all down or out or whatever, and that does get rid of it and makes it flatter, which I like. Now, you don't have to do that. That's personal preference, but if that bothers you, that's just one way to do it. Take your bone folder or some other straight edge, easy to handle tool that's not going to mar your paper, and just rub over those edges and it'll make them lay down flat for you. I don't know if it did that on the pearl paper. A little bit. It's not as obvious on the cardstock, the thicker cardstock. At least not this thicker cardstock. Now I believe the original creator, and I didn't find her video to watch, but she probably used dies, which you could use. But I really liked the shape of this, which is similar to the shape she used. It's not exact. I couldn't find the exact shape that she used in Design Space, and so I just used one of their defaults, but it's very similar, and I just really like the way this looked. I thought it was kind of simple, but still had some interest to it, and I always like cards that'll stand up easily on their own. Alright, so my sentiment reads, wishing you a very Merry Christmas and much health and happiness in the new year. And this is one I use a lot, especially for my donation cards, because I don't know who's going to get them. And so, you know, I don't know what they're going through or how they feel about things. So I just try to use something kind of generic. So I will line that up there eventually and glue that down. But before I do that, I'm going to glue this piece down. I'm going to grab my glue. Try to remove any dried glue from the tip. Just going to go not right up to the edge because the glue will kind of push out, but fairly close. Then I'm going to flip it over to make sure I can see it in case I accidentally slide it around. Probably might have been easier to just put the glue on the piece and then lay it on there, but this Michaels cardstock is, or Recollections cardstock, is lightweight enough that you can flex it without it creasing. So there's one. Might as well do this one while we're here. And I'm just kind of trying to line up my points so that they're all where they look like they should be. You know, you can be as precise with this as you want. Obviously, I don't feel like being very precise. I've mentioned before, but I will say it again. The glue does take a little bit longer to dry, even though it's pretty quick, on pearl paper or glossy paper, anything that's a little less porous. So you do want to keep that in mind, because otherwise, you know, it can slide around. Now, fortunately, the Michaels paper is not porous at all, but, or not glossy at all, I mean. Okay, so next I'm going to line this up. First I want to kind of center it top and bottom, roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. And then I want to line these points up with this fold, roughly, and maybe even just slightly behind it. That still yeah, that looks pretty good. So pick this up a little bit. Glue that down. We'll do the back side. Now we only want to go up to this this center area here. We don't want to go over it or past it, beyond it, whatever. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. On this one, it doesn't matter. It's on the top one that will matter. This one, you do want to glue the whole thing down. Alright, I'm back. Still having problems with my hard drive being full, so video cut off on me, but I went ahead and glued the top piece down. And all I did was just glue the back half of the layering sentiment, and then I slid it around till I got it right where I wanted it. So let's go ahead and do, hopefully we get through this one as well. I'm going to pause the video. When I get to that part, I'll just show you what I did in case what I said didn't make any sense. Alright, I've glued down the inside sentiment. Get rid of that extra glue there. And now I'm going to put some glue on this half. So you don't want to go all the way, or you certainly don't want to go past that middle part. I don't really like to go even exactly up to it, just because the glue will spread out a little bit and I don't want to accidentally glue the card together. This one's pretty easy to line up because your points line right up on your seam, and then you can see where this point needs to line up. Glue. Alright, to smear that, so hopefully that will come off of there. Put my pen back in. And I will show you the two. So these are the two that we've done today. Now I am going to put some embellishments on them. In fact, I have some trees pre-cut right here. This one's seen better days. And I'll put those, glue those down. So let's go ahead and do that. Get that glue back out and try to find my tweezers. There they are. Now these are just some pre-cuts that were in my stash that I'm very slowly trying to use up. Just kind of want to line this up here. Oops. A pretty thin cardstock, and so it's wanting to slide around on me instead of get a good grip. There we go. We'll do the same to this one. You can decorate these however you want. I do still have some Christmas bells that I could use, as well as any number of things. I've got some small deer and some velvet paper that I thought about digging out and die cutting. I just haven't done it yet, but that would look really nice on here as well. And then I've got my my little cardinals, which would also look nice. Just giving that a good press. There you go. You can kind of see the shimmer on that pearl cardstock, and I really do think it makes a huge difference to the overall finished look of the card. Oops. Help if I didn't take it out of the camera. Here's the other one, one that I did yesterday. Let me grab the red one. It's not the same paper, but it's very similar. So this is the one I did yesterday, and even like that, I think you can tell there's more light reflecting on the shimmer cardstock than there is on the plain matte cardstock. It just doesn't have the same wow factor for me. Little bit of room here to write a message. You could always add some more there if you wanted, or you could add a piece on the back if you wanted, if you needed more room to write. So this was yesterday's, and I added some jewels to it. And here is today's. And I will add some jewels to this one as well. And it stands up nicely. And here was the other one from yesterday, just so you can kind of see what the green ones will look like. And when I was talking about the gold paper, I was thinking for this middle layer here, between the sentiments, that would look really nice, especially on the red, but I think it would look nice on the green too. So I'm going to get 7 cards out of this, but I might do it again next week with some other techniques, because I talked to you about showing you how I used wrapping paper, holiday paper, wrapping paper. And maybe I'll do that because I know I've got some gold in that, and that really would look nice. And then we could even put a different sentiment on it, and maybe some of those deer or something. So anyway, I'm going to wrap that up for today. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask. I'll go ahead and finish these other 2 on my own. I guess I will only get 6 cards out of this, not 7. Oh well. Anyway, I'll go ahead and finish this on my own, and I will see you next time. And again, these are support for the Angel Card Project, which donates, well, it has a list of very generous people who donate cards to anyone and everyone during the holidays. And then the other project is Cards for Soldiers, which sends blank cards over to soldiers who then can fill them out and send them back to their loved ones. So those are the two groups that I'm specifically making this for. I'm also honoring Melody Lane this year. This has been a year since her passing. She passed away a year ago in February, and she used her Cricut a lot. And so this is the kind of thing she would do. She would go out and find a card on Pinterest, like I did, and then she would figure out how to make it with her Cricut. And I learned a lot from her. She still has all of her videos out there, so you can, learn a lot from her, and I will put her link in the comments below, as well as the link for the Angel Card Project and the Cards for Soldiers groups. They both also take donation. I'm sorry. They both also, I believe, take donations in case making cards isn't your thing, but you think it's a worthwhile cause. So keep that in mind. And until next time, thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.